Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Set Piece. Myself, Robert Grieve, Mr. Bill Leckie to my left. Great to see you, Bill.
Bonjour.
Oh, we're not starting that again.
Okay.
We're not speaking in French. How's the shoulder?
It's getting there. I'm going to see my physio again after this. He'll rip my arm into 17 different places.
Well, a lot of people have wanted to do that down the years.
Well, absolutely. He's big Jason's getting that joy.
Right, well, there you go. A lot going on in Scottish football this week. The transfer window, a few days to go before the window slams shut. Always slams shut, Bill.
It does slam shut.
A lot going on. Did some stories yesterday, Bill, on Rangers, on Hibs. We'll come to them in a minute. But the talking point in the last few days has been Celtic.
Yes.
A red card, a yellow card. What's your thoughts? What do you get?
Red card all day long. As soon as I saw it, red card all day long. And I can see why the referee's giving a yellow, because these days more and more referees are saying, I'll take the option that's going to be the safest one, and then if they want to upgrade me, they'll upgrade me. Which isn't a particular criticism of Stephen McLean, it's just the way it happens. But I thought, as soon as I saw it, that's a red card. And I thought VAR, for all that we criticise VAR, I thought, John Beaton, VAR, got it absolutely right.
I think you're right. I agree with. I think I've spoke about this the other day. I think it's a red card. But where I disagree is I think part of the problem these days, and I think this has been part of the problem with this one, you're cutting Steve McLean a bit of slack here for taking the yellow card option. For me, he's got to be more decisive. You know.
Well, he was decisive.
Right, but for me, I think he's making that decision, as you say, because he's got the fallback. You know, and I think I think he has to see that it's a red card. And I don't think he has changed his mind. I think that's the whole thing. People are saying he's changed his mind. No. I don't think he has. I think he's made that easy option, thinking, I'll let John Beaton.
Yeah, and we've just got
the decision, you know.
We've just got different views on that. I think now referees
I don't like that.
No, I don't like it either, but I think referees, I can see why they're doing it, because they're saying, well, I've got that fallback, and that's maybe the whole, and that's the problem with VAR now, Robert, is that it is now starting to become accepted that it will re-referee games for us, and it will take the heavy lifting for referees. I also think there's a possibility, if you ask Stephen McLean about it, he would say, well, from my angle, I thought Liam Scales was getting across, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a very spurious argument anyway, because the only person in the ground who can't see Liam Scales is Austin Trusty, who's facing the other way, who makes a cynical challenge to bring down a guy who would have had a chance to run in on goal. And I've heard people say, but the arguments with Celtic fans all week saying, he was running towards Leith, he was nowhere near the, I'm saying, rubbish. If Austin Trusty's not there, Kabori's away on his own.
Yeah, that's how it explained to me by someone in the refereeing circles. If you take Austin Trusty out of that equation, Kabori's running through, he's getting a touch and he's getting a shot, it's a goal scoring opportunity. Is he going to score? Who knows, but it's a goal scoring opportunity. And that's where people are saying it's not a clear and obvious mistake or a clear and obvious error. Well, it is if Steve McLean doesn't think there was a clear goal scoring opportunity.
He's wrong.
And he's waiting back and he's looked at it and they're saying, well, what has he seen that he's changed his mind? Well, this is where I think he should have seen it better on the pitch. And this is where I think he's maybe thought, I'll just let
them make a decision.
Yeah. But when you do see it from a different angle, from the higher angle, you see he is going to get a shot and goal.
Yeah.
So his argument maybe be down in the pitch level, eyesight level, is that he's not got that view. And that once he sees a different view, he realises he is going to get a shot and target or get a shot and goal.
Or have the opportunity. All the rule talks about is the opportunity for a shot and goal. It's a goal scoring opportunity. He doesn't have to score. For instance, Kizaridis has 2 magnificent goal scoring opportunities and doesn't take them, but that doesn't make them any less of an opportunity.
Yeah, and there was also the Kizaridis one. The second one is a shot. Liam Scales wipes out a Hearts player.
Yeah,
nobody's mentioned that.
No.
I think it was Koch. I can't remember which Hearts player it was.
He then makes a magnificent challenge on Kizaridis as well.
It gets wiped out.
Yeah, that's not. Well, I have to say, I wasn't watching that at the time.
There's an instance where a player gets absolutely wiped out.
But he gets across and makes a great challenge on Kizaridis, who should be. By the way, we shouldn't be talking about anything else apart from the fact that Kizaridis should have scored 2 goals that would have given Hearts a fantastic victory. But for me, as soon as I saw it, it's a red card. It's a cynical challenge to stop a guy having a run in on goal. Whether he scores or not is irrelevant.
That's the thing, though. We've criticised Celtic for their PR, their communications last while. Now, last week, you could argue they played a blinder. Because this
taken away
this
a lot.
argument is taken away from transfer window topics and why have Celtic not signed some players.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the Celtic fans, if you listen to any of the phone-ins in the last few days,
that's all they're talking about.
You go onto Twitter, people who are saying it's a red card, they're getting abused.
I've had it all week.
Yeah, likewise.
Not on Twitter, but elsewhere.
But people are phoning in and saying, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Celtic are thinking, well, great, I'm not talking about why we're not signing players.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll be coming out in a minute. But yeah, listen, I think one of the points I was going to make as well, Bill, we're heading into a title run-in.
Yes.
That's going to be fraught. It's going to be high intensity. It's going to be a real focus on everyone that's involved in it.
Yep.
Including the referees.
Yep.
Right? Now, whatever anyone thinks of our referees, they're honest. You know, I don't think our referees are particularly good, many of them. I think a lot of them make decisions that leave you baffled every single week. They don't use VAR often enough in the right way, and I don't think they help themselves. But they're honest.
Yes.
You know, they're not. You see some of the refereeing scandals throughout the world, and
yeah, absolutely.
And it's appalling. We don't have that.
No, we don't.
And I don't like the kind of when a light kind of shone upon them about in this kind of situation. Well, as I say, we're heading towards a title run, and there's going to be so much pressure
and a relegation fight.
I don't like how kind of at certain times it's getting pinpointed in referees.
Yeah.
When you could argue whatever you think, whether it's a red card or a yellow card.
Yeah.
You know, it's an argument. It doesn't mean to say that Celtic are wronged and they're wanting these answers. Yeah. And I just come on.
For me,
get over it.
For me, there's two separate things here, Robert. Right? Steve McLean got it wrong. I think VAR got it right. Celtic thought Martin O'Neill said it's not a red card, it's not even a blue card, and I'm thinking maybe he's thinking about his bus pass. I've got one of them. I've got one of them, and they're that's the only blue card I've got. But that's a separate from the fact that Celtic made 50 times more mistakes than Steve McLean did in the game. Yeah. Celtic, everybody knows Hearts are magnificent on set pieces. So what did Celtic keep good? They kept giving away free kicks in dangerous areas. That's what Celtic fans should be complaining about, right? You know, Austin Trusty in the first half almost sold the shirts long before he was sent off, and they got away with it thanks to a bit of poor finishing and a great save. That's what Celtic fans should be talking about. But it's a natural thing of a lot of football fans as they cling on to the one thing that they think went against them. I've had this thing. I made on a Hearts fans Facebook page, a guy I know, and he was talking about the game, and I went on. I said, by the way, I think Martin O'Neill was wrong. I think it's a red card. Just kind of threw it in. And next thing, there's Celtic fans piling in for everywhere. You know, see, that's the thing. You know nothing about football. That's your problem. You're always wrong, and you hate Celtic. And it's good God, I'm just saying.
I know.
And I haven't even started in the fact that Trustees made that mistake. They've given away all the free kicks. Blah blah blah. So, and I think there's a real problem, Colin, because, and I like this guy an awful lot. David Martindale, just now, is heading for some kind of embolism somewhere because of the state he's getting himself into over referees. And Livingston have had 3 probably big mistakes, refereeing mistakes and VAR mistakes against them. However, at the same time, they haven't won in 23 games because they haven't been good enough.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying, I don't want to be talking about this, so don't talk about it as much.
Yeah.
You know?
It's understandable when you get certain decisions go against you. You see some of the Livingston game last week, you see some of the decisions, and managers are understandably going to be upset. Martin O'Neill's in the Celtic game is well within his rights to come in and say he doesn't think it's a red card.
Yeah, absolutely.
He thinks it should be a yellow, and that's fine. There's no problem with that. You know, but it's when it goes.
It's just an opinion.
Of course, like you and I have got an opinion that's a red card. But as I said yesterday, I think if you lined up 100 Celtic fans and said, is it a red card or a yellow card? Probably 99, if not 100, are going to say it's a yellow card. And if you line up 100 Hearts fans or 100 Rangers fans, they're going to say it's a red card.
Yeah.
I like to think we are kind of you're kind of in the middle. You've not got any kind of dog in the fight, so you're just being honest about it.
Absolutely.
And I'm honest about it. I think it's a red card.
It's a red card.
There's no kind of. And no coming at it from another angle. I just think it's a red card.
And I wouldn't even say, even now that Celtic have had the appeal thrown out, I still wouldn't say my opinion is right, because opinions aren't right. Opinions are opinions. But I heard so much this week from Celtic fans saying, you're wrong. And I'm saying, well, why am I wrong to have an opinion, but you are so right to have an opinion? Yeah. You know, that's partly what the game is. However, I think there comes a time with managers when no matter how angry they are about VAR decisions, and VAR decisions have become such a huge part of the game and a huge negative part of the game, they also have to remember that footballers make many, many more mistakes than officials do in the course of a game.
Yeah.
And over the course of a season, they'll make hundreds more mistakes than referees will.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think there's going to be huge pressure on the referees towards the tail end of the season. You say top half of the table and bottom half of the table, there's so much at stake, and I think it's unfair. I do. I think they make mistakes. I think we're in a period of time where our referees right now aren't particularly good. When you look,
there's a lot of inexperienced referees out there.
For being honest about it, but they're not corrupt. You know, they're not biased. They're out there. Should they maybe make better decisions? Sure, but I don't think they should be under the kind of spotlight they're put under by clubs. It's a red card. Can I almost take it in the chin, move on? You know, listen, there's a right of appeal for anything. Absolutely. I've no problem with that. I'm not saying you can't lodge an appeal against any decision, but I don't know. I thought that appeal was doomed to failure. Absolutely. I think Celtic probably realised it was doomed to failure.
But they did it. But you go for it anyway, because again, as you say, it extends the narrative of we've been hard done by in a week when it's probably the first time this season when the narrative from Celtic fans hasn't been sack the board, sign some players. Yeah. It's been they're out to get us.
Yes. And maybe people could argue that's smart for their point of view.
Yeah, possibly.
We've criticised them at times for their PR, their communications, and in the last few days they've put this out. As I say, it's always this, we want clarity in it. Not just from Celtic, other clubs do it. We want clarity in this, we want clarity in that, and then it goes away and the dust settles and everything calms down, you know.
What this will do, as you say, as we get towards the tickly bit of the season, is that
you're going to say that.
Is that
you're trying to think of something else to say,
something to say, and I couldn't think of it. That tells you a lot about me. There will be a lot of whataboutery coming up. Because there'll be an incident in a Rangers game or a Hearts game where a player makes a challenge, and is it or isn't it? And if it isn't, Celtic fans will go mad. You know, and there's every chance, it being Scottish football, it will happen in the next Old Firm game or in the Rangers Hearts game or whatever. So this is the position that clubs and referees and VAR and everybody else we put ourselves into by getting too bent out of shape about human error.
Yeah. As you say, this isn't just exclusive to Celtic.
No, it's not.
Not by any stretch of imagination. We're sitting here, have a go at Celtic. All the clubs do it. Rangers do it. Hearts do it.
Yeah.
You're talking about Livingston.
I think
when it suits them, you know, there's a kind of.
Yeah, as I say, I'm a big fan of David Martindale, but I think he needs to just come off the ledge a wee bit about referees just now and concentrate more on. And I know the frustration is I can't buy a win. It's just not happening. What am I going to do? And then in the last minute of a big game. You know, the St Mirren game last Tuesday night, I think it's a foul.
Yeah.
In the lead up to St Mirren's goal, I think VAR did a brilliant job there. But it's a foul. It's a foul. And he's quite right to be annoyed. But in the lead up to that, how many things did these players get wrong?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's I was at Tynecastle on Sunday, and the result keeps it bubbling, doesn't it? I think Callum McGregor spoke about it after the match. You can see this going to the wire now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You really can. Hearts are not going away.
No.
Rangers are on their tails.
Fair play to Hearts on Sunday, actually.
Yeah.
Fair play to them.
Celtic as well. That's twice 2-2 in Bologna, 10 men. A good point. It sets it up for Thursday night. Hopefully they'll get a result tomorrow against Utrecht and get through. Rangers are there. A great win for them against Dundee, as you say. And Hearts are just, you know, they'll be disappointed they didn't win the game, but they're still their noses out in front. It's going to go to the wire.
The big thing for Hearts I thought was great was the reaction to losing Cammy Devlin and Lawrence Shankland was very positive. They went to Mark Leonard, who I thought was tremendous, in the middle of the park. They reshuffled things up front. They used their bench really well, and they never really missed a beat. They were very much Hearts. You know, I think if Shankland, ifs and buts, if Shankland's got either of those two chances Kidarides has, maybe he puts them away. Maybe that's the only difference. But you don't know. Maybe the ball doesn't fault him. So I thought Hearts were terrific. I thought they did really well. I thought if I was a Celtic fan, I'd be thinking, should we, if we're trying to win the league, be going to Tynecastle and being as reactive rather than proactive as we were? Because I thought they were very much... I thought they wasted a lot of time from early on. I thought they broke the play up more than Celtic teams usually do. And I think maybe that's a Martin O'Neill thing. Maybe that's how he wants to get into Hearts, is get under their skin. But you know, I've seen Celtic teams that have won titles going to a place like Tynecastle, taking the game to them, going one up, and then you never think they're going to get hauled back. But I never thought Celtic were ever safe at 1-0.
I think Derek McInnes touched on it after the game. He said at one point he kind of turned around to his bench and said, "This is exactly the game we expected and the game we wanted." You know, it was that kind of game that
fight ball.
Yeah, it was, but in a good way for your point of view.
But you're not going to beat Hearts at fight ball.
No, no, probably not. But I didn't think it was a great game.
No, but it was a great spectacle.
Exactly, I was just about to say that. It wasn't a great game in terms of the standard. The ball wasn't there so much. The amount of times both teams gave it away, Celtic more than Hearts, just gave it away.
It was pulsating, wasn't it?
You know,
it never stopped.
Yeah, I would like to actually see the kind of passes completion stats in it, because I bet they were like -5. But there was.
But XG would have been through the roof.
Yeah, but it was like a game you couldn't take your eyes off for that very reason.
And you know an interesting thing, you talk about Callum McGregor. We talked before about how not a peep from him during the whole Nancy thing. Then before the Hearts game, he's back out, he's talking, he's come back to life. And I think you could hear the pain in his voice about what had happened in the 6 weeks before.
We touched on it last week. Callum McGregor clearly didn't want to come out and speak Wilfred Nancy,
because he wouldn't be able to
hold back.
Yeah.
And there was also the situation, Derek McGregor broke the story that Brendan Rodgers looking to take him to Saudi potentially, so that was an issue he probably didn't want to address. Right, fine, don't have a problem with that. Callum McGregor is front and centre. He fronts up 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
Throughout his Celtic career, if anything needs said, Callum comes out and says it. You can't criticise.
No, not in the least. And I thought he looked more like himself on Sunday again. He was in people's faces again.
You can certainly understand the fact that he was maybe. It was just unusual because he is usually so kind of, I say, front and centre. But he spoke before the game. He wasn't asked about the Saudi thing before the game. Asked him about it post match, and he very clearly said, "No, this is a time to stay and fight." I think that was his quote. You know, so.
Do you think that would have been the case if Wilfred Nancy had still been here?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't. I think if Wilfred Nancy was still Celtic manager, I think Callum McGregor would have had a massive decision to make. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we didn't hear from him. It'll be interesting. Who knows what's going to happen in the summer?
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. So I definitely think that's one to watch in the summer. But I don't see him going now. I think he made that very clear. In fact, as soon as Martin O'Neill come back in,
he was back in.
You could almost write it off, because he wasn't going to. He's not going to kind of move on at that point. But
if he's not going to go, lots of people look as if they've got a chance to go places in the next few days.
That brings us to yesterday was a busy day, Bill. Really busy day. A lot going on with Rangers in terms of clubs being interested in their players.
Yes.
Youssef Chermiti, a bid from Fenerbahce. I actually believe that came in a few days ago. Rejected by both the club and the player. They've got no interest in it. £30 million bid, I believe, €50 million roughly. Both Chermiti and the club have said no. Djeidi Gassama as well. Monaco have come in for him, £10 million. Again, the club not interested. I believe, as I wrote this morning, Manny Fernandez centre back. There's been interest. Rangers are aware of interest there. From Germany, Borussia Dortmund among the clubs, by Leverkusen looking at him. As yet, no offers or formal contact as of this morning, but Rangers are aware that they've had scouts over watching him. Chermiti and Fernandez in particular, two players who a few months ago, Bill, Rangers fans would have probably carried their bags to the airport.
Absolutely correct.
And here we are in a situation where they've knocked back serious money for them. Personally, I think that's kudos to Rangers, that, as we just touched on, they've got themselves right back into a title race, and I think it would be a really not a great look if they were to start selling anyone. Now, Chermiti, you can argue the rights and wrongs of how good he's been for Rangers. Fernandez has come onto a game, but I think kudos to Rangers if they're actually kind of setting their stall out and saying we're not selling any of our kind of starters.
There's part of me that says if you got offered €15 million, £13 million for Chermiti and 8 to 10 million for Gassama, I would bite their hand off, because it's fantastic money It's basically treble your money on Chermiti and treble your money on Gassama. Brilliant. If they get offered 5-6 million, whatever it is for Fernandez, you double your money. I would take it. However, that's me thinking about it from a money making point of view. From Rangers' point of view, if you're sitting there, if you're on the board and you're sitting there going, all right, we're trying to win this league, we'll try to get the fans back on side. If people are that interested in these players, they'll still be interested in July. Therefore, let's keep them, let's try and win the title, and then we'll maybe think about tooling up for Champions League football by bringing in 30 million quid.
Targets do change. I mean, Celtic right now are looking for a defender that they need desperately right now. They might not want him in the summer. So that maybe isn't the case. There maybe are offers coming for these players at Rangers right now that maybe won't be there in the summer from these specific clubs. But I take your point, I take your point.
It's the point I'm making is it's a massive dilemma. Is the league title's very much there for Rangers to win. Very much. The way they're playing, it's very hard to see where the next defeat comes from. They're just rumbling along, doing their stuff. What I've said before is Rangers don't really have any players that you think, if you took Callum McGregor out of Celtic, they've got a problem. You take Devlin and Shankland out of Hearts, they've got to go and react. Rangers don't really have any players like that. So, how much did he miss Chermiti if he goes? How much did he miss Fernandez if he goes when you've got much of a muchness in there? But that's the dilemma for Rangers. They might think, hang on, if we let them go and don't win the league, they'll blame it on us. Yeah, they might not win the league anyway, but they might blame it on the board if they sell those players now.
But if Rangers right now are in a position where they don't need to sell from a financial standpoint, which it looks like they don't, right? They've got back in there. They seem.
I think clubs always need to sell.
Right.
If the money's right.
Clubs at Rangers will always need to. That should be their model.
Yeah.
To bring players in at a certain level and move them on for another level. That's smart. That's what Celtic have been great at down the years, up until recently. So if Rangers were to do it from a business point of view, you could say, well, that's what they're there to do. But I think the timing's crucial, Bill.
Absolutely.
I really think it is. And it's not even so much how they would get blamed, but I think just almost a perception of it. Right now, they've clawed their way back into the title race by hook or by crook. They're just on the coattails of Celtic and, or in Hearts now, and they're there and thereabouts. If they suddenly just sell Chermiti, who, even though he has been at times pretty poor, and it's only maybe in the last 6 weeks
he started.
I mean, his goals at Celtic Park were a huge turning point for him. But I think it sends out.
That's his CV now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it sends out, for me, the message that sends out is fantastic from a Rangers point of view. If you're a Rangers fan right now, you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, right, so we're not just taking the first bid that comes in for these guys. We're actually looking. You say maybe in the summer that changes. In fact, I can almost guarantee in the summer it probably would change. But I think from a Rangers point of view, it's bold from them,
absolutely.
As you said. But the easiest thing in the world to say, right, let's move on. Chermiti, he's come in, he's done okay for a few games, he's only scored that.
But let's cut losses.
Let's cut losses, and then go to Leeds and get a loan player for them, and and listen.
Well, do you know there's a lot to be said for if, for instance, Joel Peru can't get a game at Leeds, and through their connections maybe said, right, take Peru to the end of the season on loan, and then we'll talk about it, and that would let them say, well, could we let Chermiti go for 13 million?
Why not do both? Why not keep Chermiti and do that as well?
Well, I think they do need another striker.
Because as we've touched on before, I think they do need another striker, and I think that's probably the one that will happen between now and the window closing. But we've touched on it before. Rangers to win the league this season is monumental for them in terms of going straight into the Champions League. It's like a game-changing title for them to win. And I think that's why they are taking the decisions they're taking. They're looking at the bigger picture, even just from a perception point of view, but also if we don't need to sell them right now, and you say the Fenerbahce, who are there right now, may not be there in the summer for Chermiti, but there will be other offers, there will be other interest from them, and especially if Rangers by that point are champions. So a huge time for Rangers. Who knows what's going to happen in the next few days, but I think you have to take your hat off to them for being as kind of bold as that.
They've done a couple of things in the last wee while, and I don't think it's any coincidence it's since they decided to take Jim Gillespie off our club and bring him in as, although he's not in yet as chief executive, they did the couple of bits of business where instead of loan players with an obligation to buy, it's become loan players with an option to buy, which is a much stronger position to take.
That's been a conscious.
That's a very conscious thing, and it's a very dynamic thing to do. And the next dynamic thing to do would be to say, well, if you fancy him, either give us an enormous amount of money now that we can't refuse, or come back and get him in June.
Yeah. But say we were sitting here this morning, Bill, and Rangers had accepted bids for Gassama and Chermiti, you know, and Fernandez. They were kind of saying, "Oh, come on then, let's see what you've got." But a different.
The perception from the fans would not be good.
Wouldn't be good. You know, and Danny
There'd be a lack of trust again.
Danny Rule would be within his rights to sit there and say, "Guys, really? I've got ourselves into this position. You're suddenly selling." Even though they aren't. Chermiti might only score a handful of goals between now and the end of the season, but one of them might be the goal that wins him the league.
Well, that's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Having seen the way he's played, where there's days when he's not turned up for work, and then he goes to Parkhead and scores twice. Who's to say that in the next Old Firm game, or when they play Hearts on 15th of February, he doesn't turn up? Then maybe he's going to be a big game player.
Yeah.
You don't know. So, but the last few days, as ever, just look as if they're going to be quite frantic, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, we're still waiting to see what Celtic are going to do.
Yeah.
Again, you get the impression from their point of view that it could be underwhelming again. It's looking like they're maybe going to get a couple of players in, but you know, I think the Celtic fans are well within their rights to be saying they should be doing so much more. I think Martin O'Neill, we'll be speaking to him later on, I think he's well within his rights to be saying, I need more help than this. Callum McGregor touched on it after the Hearts game at the weekend. He actually said, we need help.
Yeah.
You know, they need help.
They need help.
You know, they
definitely need defensive help.
Yeah, I mean,
because defensively they're still. I know that, you know, you're missing two big players there, and Alistair Johnson's been in a massive miss all season. Carter Vickers been a big miss. Kieran Tierney's still, I don't think, has he played 90 minutes? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but again, went down on Sunday, struggling a little bit. So you can't keep looking at Liam Scales and Austin Trusty, especially they're now going to lose Austin Trusty for a game. But you can't keep looking at these guys and saying, well, oh, that's okay, they'll hold things together, because they're not holding things together. They're doing the very best they can. I mean, Trusty, I thought in Bologna was tremendous.
He was brilliant.
Scales has had games where he's been tremendous, but as a partnership, they're not.
They always have moments.
Top draw.
They have moments where they're kind of fallible.
Yeah.
Kieron Bowie, the Hibs striker, is a player Celtic have been watching. Maybe that's something that could materialise in the next few days. Who knows? One to maybe keep an eye on. Story came out of Easter Road yesterday. In fact, a few stories came out of Easter Road yesterday and even today. We'll come to another section of that in a minute. But Kieron Bowie, huge player for Hibs, having a tough time of it, David Gray and his side. Hellas Verona been in for him, along with two other clubs from Italy, I'm led to believe. Hibs, the noises coming out of Easter Road is that there's no rush to do any business there, but money talks, Bill.
It does, and do you know, I really like Kieron Bowie. I think he's got all the bits required. He's big, he's strong, he's got a good turn of pace, he's a good finisher. I've watched him, I've been the last two Hibs games where they were knocked out the cup at Dunfermline, and then when they were battered on Saturday. And by the way, Falkirk, kudos, magnificent performance. 10 out of 11 boys in the park, Scottish boys, John McGlynn, they were magnificent. However, Kieron Bowie's having to do his work 40 yards from goal, because Hibs aren't using that pace down the sides he used to. I mean, he must have looked at Barney Stewart playing for Falkirk, 21-year-old university boy, and all he was doing was getting in the middle of the post, and they were putting crosses in, and the big boy scored a hat-trick. Kieron Bowie must be saying, where's that for me? And it's not. And Kieron Bowie looks like a boy who's struggling just now to find what his place is in this system, because it's not working. And I think all round there's a lot of grumpiness about Hibs, and there's a feeling among the fans something has to change somewhere, a way of playing, maybe new bodies. I've heard grumping about David Gray, which I think is ridiculous.
So a few months ago we were raving about David Gray.
But that's football,
so
isn't it?
Surely
So
David Gray's not under any threat.
No, but I've heard people on Saturday at Falkirk, okay, they're angry, they're emotional, saying if we play like that against Rangers on Sunday and blah blah blah, they need to think about it, you know. And anyway, I think that's the stupidest thing I've heard all season, that David Gray should be under any pressure. However, they need something. They need to up their game. And if bringing in £5 million for Kieron Bowie helps them do it, they've already brought in a boy from Sligo Rovers.
How's that going to improve their team? How's that going to improve their team?
Well, it depends what they do with the £5 million.
Yeah, but we've got 2 days before handful of days before the window shuts. Certainly Kieron Bowie tomorrow is not going to help David Gray.
Well, you know Malky Mackay, I know Malky Mackay, and I'm guessing that behind the scenes they're working on stuff. They brought a boy in from Sligo Rovers, young striker, 400 grand, we're told. I think you're right. I think to lose a guy like Bowie 2 days before wouldn't, again a bit like Rangers, wouldn't send out a great message. But would you, as Hibs, who very much have been a selling club down the years, would you turn down £5 million?
Yeah.
If it was, would you?
Yeah, because that's not going to go away. Kieron Bowie's going to the World Cup in the summer. His value's not going anywhere. It's not going south. His value is only, his contract's only obviously have run down a bit, but I think they get this kind of same ballpark if they sell him in the summer. Listen, it'd be tempting if clubs come in with a huge money offer, and it is their valuation, and you're right, we're talking about earlier on about clubs and bringing in a player at a certain level and moving them on. That's what they should be doing.
Yeah.
But timing's everything. Timing's absolutely everything, and I think if you're a club like Hibs, David Gray's under pressure, not under pressure, but he's not getting results at the minute. If you go and sell your best player, what message does that send out to your supporters, and also what message does it send out to your guys sitting in the dressing room? You're like, we're trying to improve things here, and you're just going to sell our best player. I'd be surprised if that happens. I say money talks. If a club was to come in Scotland or abroad with serious dough, then maybe it was something they have to look at. But
Hibs in many ways are a model club. They're going in the right way in so many directions. It's just kind of sticking on the park at the moment, and that's what worries me slightly. Is Hibs have had it depends how Hibs have changed now as a club, because Hibs in the past would have heard the fans grumping and would have got nervy and would have waited for another defeat and would have emptied the manager. Yeah. And I don't think that's what they should be doing.
That doesn't happen again.
Because I think he's a terrific guy. I think he's a terrific manager. I think he's got so many good ideas. He never gets upset when they're losing. He never gets too high when they're winning. I think he's a great guy, and I hope he's going to be there for a long time. But it will depend on what the mood is in the Hibs boardroom if things don't improve quickly.
No, I echo everything you've just said there. If Hibs are emptying David Gray, then
because at the moment their season is in danger of kind of fizzling out. They're looking to be sixth, maybe fifth.
Yeah, that's not good enough. They should be doing. You look at Falkirk and what's happening there, and a lot of clubs will be looking at the position they're in right now compared to other clubs, and they're thinking, well, what's going on here? You look at Aberdeen. We've touched on it before. Aberdeen are again looking like they're going to finish in the bottom half of the table, which for the money they're spending
is appalling.
Is absolutely disgraceful. But one of the problems Hibs have got obviously this season is Hearts.
Yeah.
Every high be looking across the city and seeing what's going on down in Gorgie, you're thinking
the only thing that's made
that's not helping David Gray.
The only thing that's really made Hibs happy this season, they had a couple of wee fun nights in Europe, but the only thing that really made them happy was beating Hearts at Christmas, which is a sad indictment on where their season is. Now, they're going to play Hearts again in a couple of weeks at Tynecastle. They could do them damage again, but that's not enough. And there's an interesting one this Sunday when they play Rangers, because they've played Rangers 3 times this season. They've lost 3 times. They haven't scored a goal. They've barely laid a glove on them. And even then, they played them. Remember the day in the League Cup at Ibrox when there was protests outside and it was all going totally toxic. And Hibs just never really did anything. Yeah. And I remember David Gray being so disappointed with them. And I hear that disappointment in his voice too often. And the players I think a lot of players at Hibs are letting David Gray down at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, they need to pull their socks up.
Big weekend coming up, Bill.
Yes.
Another, as you say, the games are coming thick and fast. Big game for Rangers, Hibs, Celtic after the game. They've got a big game tomorrow night.
Utrecht tomorrow night.
Do you see them going through tomorrow?
Yes.
I think they will.
I do. Utrecht have lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Listen, we've all seen this with Scottish teams. Oh, this team are rubbish. They're having a terrible time, and then they come and play you off the park. I think Celtic will do enough. I think they'll get a Martin O'Neill style result. And it'll take a bit of pressure off them. Doesn't really matter now for Rangers. They're in Porto. It doesn't massively matter to them, but it'd be good for them again just to finish on a little bit of a flourish. Celtic have got Falkirk at home on Sunday. Now Falkirk at home to Celtic a couple of weeks ago were very unlucky not to get a result. Falkirk then went to Hearts, knocked them out the cup. As I say, on Saturday against Hibs, they were absolutely magnificent, start to finish. And now that they've got a centre forward who just plays between the posts, John's got the final little piece of his jigsaw. They're a lovely team to watch. I'm not going to say they're going to go to Parkhead and win, but that is going to be a hard old game.
I was going to just say that. I think that's a real tough game for Celtic on the back of a European game, which is, you'd imagine, going to take a lot out of their legs.
I thought they looked tired on Sunday.
Yeah, they did. 10 men back-to-back games, you know.
Yeah. Well, so did Hearts. Hearts had that before as well. You've got to cope with that. This time of this season, there are no excuses. You've got to cope with it.
Yeah, but it's that's a tough game for Celtic. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the Hibs Rangers game.
And Hearts are at Dundee United on Saturday night, one of these horrible 8 o'clock Saturday night games, which should be banned forever.
Yeah, it's going to be. We touched on it at the start. Do you think it's going to go all the way?
Yes.
Can you see this going to a last day drama?
I don't see why not. The fact that you've got 3 teams now involved who have all got to play each other. They've also got to play your Motherwells and Hibs as well. So it's for once. I'm not a great fan of the split, as you know.
I think it's brilliant.
I've bored you that many times, but this year the top 6 could be like a brilliant little kind of shootout league in its own. Could be fantastic.
But that's why the top 6 works, and it does it.
But a lot
end of the table as well.
But a lot of years it doesn't work. A lot of years it's done and it's nobody really cares. But
that's nothing to do with the split.
Well,
that's just because Celtic have romped it.
Yeah, but the split itself then becomes irrelevant. Anyway, this year the top 6 is going to be a lot of fun, and the bottom 6 could be, as long as Livingston.
Fun's not the right
no,
one.
not fun, but type 2 fun. As long as Livingston haven't become too detached, they need to get themselves wins from somewhere. But the top of the table, when you think you've got an Edinburgh derby coming up in the next few weeks, Hearts, you've got Edinburgh derby, and they go to Ibrox. I think if they can come away with both, same as I said about the Celtic game, they can come away without losing them, they remain my favourites to win it. But at the moment, I just don't see where Rangers are going to fall. And they might fall on Sunday for all I've said that. But at the moment, I just don't see where.
Your money in Rangers right now to win the league?
When you were away last year, I was talking to Roger. I said if you had your last 5 and somebody said you must put this on a team, then right now Rangers are the team that are winning games most consistently.
You do this when I'm not here?
Sometimes.
I'm happy with that.
Nah, Roger's not as good as you.
That goes without saying.
But listen, there's an argument for all 3. I think at the moment, Martin O'Neill's right. Celtic are probably the third favourite, but that doesn't mean they're not going to win it.
No, absolutely. You certainly, absolutely no way can you discount Celtic right now.
You've got an Old Firm game coming up next month. They could go to Ibrox and win. You don't know.
I think Celtic
that's the fun of this, the jeopardy involved in every single game with these 3 teams from now to the end of the season. And if you've got a 2-horse race and one of them has a wee stumble in March, as teams tend to do, then it's all done. But if one of them has a stumble over the next 6 weeks, whatever, there's still 2. So there's every chance it's going to get right down to the last couple of games.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, it'll be fascinating. I'm sure there'll be more lumps and bumps between now and the end of the season, more controversy, more red cards, yellow cards, some blue cards.
Blue card here and there.
Maybe some blue cards, Bill with his blue bus card. That's quite good, that, getting the buses for nothing.
Oh, it's magic.
Oh, yeah.
And your senior rail card gets you cut price in the train.
Do you get that when you get 70? Is that when you get that?
72.
72.
Same as Martin. I'm a year younger than Martin.
There you go. Thanks for joining us this week in the set piece. Let us know in the comment section below as ever. There were some great comments last week. Mark, our producer, was telling us about. So let us know your thoughts as ever. Like and subscribe if possible, and we'll catch up with you again next week.